guys doing? Good. So as she said, I'm Anndréa Moore, and I'm super, super excited to be here with you guys today. I'm actually from Columbus, Ohio. So I'm from the Midwest. Silicon Prairie, I know, is growing insane. And so I'm really happy to be here, even though I'm currently still spending my time in the Bay Area. So I'll just kick off the presentation with this. Just do it. What does this mean to you guys? Where do you guys know this from? Nike, right? So what you might not know is that in 1988, Nike was still a niche brand, right? They had started in 1964. They were really tailored to athletes. The mainstream population weren't buying them. And so the brand team at Nike said, we have to figure out a way to become mainstream. We need to increase our sales. We want to become a big brand. And so that's why they launched the Just Do It campaign. And it's something that we all know and love, right? Now we associate that particular phrase with that brand. And what it did is it took Nike from just being a brand for athletes to being a brand for everyone. So me, being in Columbus, Ohio, I wanted to study marketing. I saw these campaigns, the Just Do It, and I wanted to know, okay, who are the people that are creating these advertisements? And how can I be in that space? So I went to the University of Cincinnati, still in Ohio, studied marketing, studied international business, and began my career doing marketing research at the Nielsen Company. And in that role, I was able to partner with big brand companies like Procter & Gamble, Unilever, and Walmart to figure out how they can best reach their customers, how they should be talking to them, how they should be segmenting them, how they should price items for them, how they should think about brand launches, and it really gave me a chance to understand that space. But one thing I realized is when I was in those rooms with those decision makers, me being, considered a consultant doing marketing research, I realized that no one in the room looked like me, right? Even though a lot of the consumers of those products actually did look like me. And so that's the question that came up in my head. So who's creating these advertisements? And then next, who's creating these products, right? So going further down the chain and figuring out who are the engineers that were building these products, who are the R&D that were doing the research and putting together the formulations for these products, and again, realized that there was no one who looked like me. And at the same time, there was this ecosystem that I was hearing about, the center of innovation, the center of new products. How should brands be thinking about YouTube, right? Like, this was back in 2011 where YouTube was just a video or a site where you just watch cats. And it's like, what's going on here? And brand managers were thinking, I don't know how to optimize on this platform. I know my customers, my consumers are using it, but I don't understand it. There was this whole thing called SEO, search engine optimization, or search engine marketing. And there's this big company called Google, right, where these brand managers were saying, I'm talking to my agencies, I'm asking them, they don't know how to optimize, I don't know how to optimize. And me, in marketing research, wanting to have a long-term career in marketing, I thought, okay, if they don't know, and these are the biggest brands with the biggest budgets in the world, how am I ever going to know how to do this unless I go and be a part of one of those companies, right? So what I did is I applied online, which I don't recommend doing. If you want to get into tech, let's talk about referrals and networking and things like that. But I applied online at that time because I didn't know, and I received an interview, and I flew actually to Ann Arbor to do my in-person interview, received an offer, and I said, no, I want to be in California, right? I want to be at the center of innovation. I want to be at the center of technology, at the center of this new space, right? So I packed up my bags, and I moved to California. And so spent a couple of years there, learned a lot, started first consulting small, medium businesses on AdWords, which is that search engine marketing that you guys have been hearing about. Transitioned into product marketing for small and medium businesses, so really targeting those customers and trying to understand what's the right language to use with them to get them to start advertising, but also understanding that they're time constrained, they're budget constrained, but they still want to optimize and grow their business. Took 2 years off, I would say. I went to business school, and then I decided in business school that I wanted to come back into technology, right? So I returned. I started at Apple doing product management, and then transitioned back into product marketing because I still wanted to kind of focus on that customer. But there were some things that I noticed the second time around that I wasn't really spending time thinking about the first time around. And there was a few of these things. So as I looked up within my organization at that time, there were no executive leaders, once again, who looked like me. When I went to conferences to expand my skill set, to learn what was the new technology that was coming out, what were the things that were being focused on, there were no conference speakers, but even worse, no conference attendees who looked like me, right? So we weren't in those spaces. I read a lot of articles on TechCrunch and wanting to know about startups and different ecosystems and entrepreneurs. Again, no representation, unfortunately. So all these things were kind of coming together. And I was in a community for women in tech, right? So there was this big push, how do we increase gender in this space? And during that time, there was an Asian woman who had posted in the community and said, I want to interview a group of women just to learn about their needs, their wants, what I can do, and what my company can do to reach them. And so we had a 30-minute conversation, and at the end of the conversation, she asked, well, do you think that it's necessary to create programming tailored for Black women in tech specifically? So some of the things that I mentioned during our conversation, I said, well, I have natural hair. I get questions about my hair in the office. Sometimes I dress up, sometimes I dress down, which, in tech, it's, t-shirt and jeans. I'm also from the Midwest. I'm a first generation, college graduate, all these different things. And that's when she posed that question. And I sat there for a moment and I said, the answer is yes. And so that is when I started Black Tech Women. And so Black Tech Women is a national community of over 2,500 members. I started in March 2017, and the premise of it is slightly different from some of the organizations that you probably all know and love, is that we focus on retaining and advancing Black women in technology. So when I joined the tech industry at Google, I started actually with 3 or 4 other Black women, but when I came back, they were all gone. And so they had joined Delta, they went to Deloitte for consulting, they were completely leaving the industry. And as I started talking to a few other Black women in this space, it was the same thing. They had come in, did their 2 years, and then left. And so I wanted to focus on those of us who are in these spaces, but are not being promoted, not making it to executive leadership, not receiving funding when they start to go out on their own. And so that's why I created Black Tech Women. So as you guys think about, challenges that you see in your industries or in your functions or in your spaces, there are solutions that you guys can come up with, but it's important to think about what is the MVP. So what is the minimum viable product for you to get started and for you to just do it, right? So I'm going to share a few examples from the Black Tech Women community. So we started on Facebook, and this is before I started working there. I looked at different platforms that I could bring members together, right? I could bring members of my community together to converse, to ask questions, to get feedback on ideas, to get funding for their companies. And to me, the easiest platform to do this, where I knew that most of the community would be, was right on Facebook, right? So I created a Facebook group. I pulled us all together. It started with about 50 members that I knew, and it quickly advanced to 1,000, to 1,500, to 2,000, to now a little bit over 2,500. And you might ask, okay, what made the community keep growing, right? The biggest element of community that is super important is engagement. And so let me tell you how I hacked my way into getting engagement from the community. So when you're in a new community, as we saw kind of earlier in the day, it can be a little awkward to start conversation, to share a little bit about yourself, because you're new. You don't know what the space is like. You don't know if people are going to be receptive. And so what I did is for the first couple of new members is I sent them Facebook messages with different articles that I read with a summary. And I said, hey, I noticed you're in healthcare tech. I found this article. Here's a quick summary. You should post it to the community, and other people will like it. Trust me. And then what I did is, on the other side, I pinged five other people who were my friends, and I said, hey, Ashley just posted this. Go like it. Which you laugh now, but it worked, right? So eventually, I didn't have to send articles to people, ask people to like post in the community. It was naturally happening. People were naturally creating their introductions, naturally posting job opportunities, naturally posting articles that they were reading, and it really created this strong sense of community where others wanted to add their own friends. So I did this without any promotional budget, really just word of mouth and people wanting to share with it because they were getting value out of it. So if you guys want to start something similar, definitely try that. Figure out ways that you can hack to get your community going. The second piece is as I said before, I was reading a lot of articles on different events and different entrepreneurs and different things that were happening, but they didn't include people who look like me, and they weren't written by people who look like me. So I don't know if you guys know of Medium, but it's a super easy, free platform where you can write, blog, post. It does a really good job of doing formatting and having images. And so I decided to create a Black Tech Women Medium account. And another way that I started generating content for this is I would ping people, once again, and say, hey, I see that you're already going to X event, or I see that you are starting a new company. And so how about you write about your experience at the event, or you share a little bit about your company, and we'll share it on the Black Tech Women Medium account, right? So it's allowing us to get content for our community, for our members, also help us build our brand, while also helping the writer to build their brand and to share their experience at different events. And so this particular article that I highlighted was an event. It was Google's first Women of Color Tech Summit, and it was written by Reginae Gilbert, who is now a really well-known UX speaker. And then the third piece that I focused on for the first year was programming. So up until our first networking event, this was completely online, right? So probably the first 6 months or so was completely online. And I was getting feedback from members that they wanted to meet in person. So I'm messaging with different people saying, hey, what do you think about the community so far? Is there anything that you would change? Is there anything that you want to see? And they said, yes, we want to meet people in person. Like, it's great to be online. I can meet people in different cities, but I actually want to see these people. I want to have an offline community. And so on the left, you'll see that there's a group of women at Instagram. So another hack for you guys. At this time, we didn't have any funding. We didn't have any money. This was all volunteer. But I knew that we had members who worked at different tech companies, right? So I posted, I said, hey, is there anyone who works at Instagram in LA and who would be interested in hosting a lunch, right? So Instagram/Facebook has free lunch, and they had to work in LA. Got a yes, right? And so after that, what I did is I asked if people would like to attend lunch on Instagram. So this picture is with Siobhan Charles. She's the head of culture and youth culture at Instagram in LA. She said yes. She hosted the lunch. She shared her career. She talked about first working at Google, moving to Twitter, and now on Instagram, challenges she faces as a Black woman. And so it did twofold. It helped her continue to build her brand. It helped Instagram be able to be seen more of a space for Black women. And it also helped us, Black Tech Women, with programming for our members. And so the second item on there is we did a vision board session, and we also had a networking event at Samsung in New York. So as you think about ways to create programming, what are things that you can do and tap into that doesn't necessarily have to cost you money, but can still drive value for your members? And so the key thing that I took away from our first year and a half, is resources and support are important, but they don't have to come through the traditional means of asking for money or asking for people to necessarily give things that they don't have or that they don't think they have. It could just be as simple as asking for time, asking for an hour, helping people figure out that they can be a resource by pinging them, right? Sending them a quick message. And so, again, to summarize, the three things that I focused on is community, content, and programming. But it wasn't all easy, right? There's still challenges that we have as an organization. So I want to talk a little bit about the learnings. And as we move into our second year of the organization, we do definitely have some challenges. Okay, so these are the three things that really stuck out to me as I reviewed our first year. So structure. As I kind of been mentioning throughout the presentation, we're super informal. So some things that we tried out, so I brought on a few teammates. Some are based in New York, some are based in the Bay Area. I really wanted the organization to be national, as I said before. And so I also brought on some city leads. So we have a lead in Chicago, a lead in New York, a lead in the Bay Area. But there's challenges with that, right? So the more people you add to your leadership team, the more complex it gets. So we talked a little bit about that before, right? How do you continue to make sure that it's inclusive? Who are the right people that you're bringing into the leadership team? What experience do they have? What is their sense of belonging in a community in their actual locale? So if you're supposed to be leading a city for, let's say, Dallas, like what connections does that city lead have? What connections can they build, right? That's a challenge for our organization. Scalability, that ties in that too, right? So I talked a little bit about how we hacked our way to a lunch at Instagram. We had a lunch at Google, but all those companies aren't located in all of the cities where we have members. So as we think about scaling and making sure that our members in, let's say, smaller growing tech ecosystems, how do we make sure that they continue to have an experience that is valuable to them where we can't necessarily hack our way through, right? And so that goes into the revenue piece. We can't continue to build the organization completely from a, no money, hack your way through as we continue to grow. So it's time for us as an organization to transition from what I call the MVP, minimum viable product, to our V1, right? What's our beta? And so at this point in time, I think that we have a strategic planning session that's coming up that we'll be thinking about how do we sustain the organization for future growth. And so what I want to say is thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. Hopefully you took away some tips. And if you do have an idea for your industry or your function of expertise, that you just do it. Thank you.